Welcome to the All Comfort Services Home Comfort Zone podcast. I'm Theresa, Marketing Manager at All Comfort Services. Today I have Larry Davies, who is the founder of All Comfort Services. Welcome, Larry.
Hello, how are you?
Great. It's good to have you here. Larry started the business in 1973, and he started the business with Suzie Davies. And could you tell us a little bit about how the business got started?
Well, I was working for another HVAC company. I had worked there for about 8 or 9 years, and I thought that it was time maybe for me to try to go out on my own. We lived in Fitchburg and had a home there that I had built a few years previously, and so it was kind of out in the country, but not really. Fitchburg in those days was really kind of rural in that. And so I went to the bank and borrowed some money to buy a truck or two and decided to go out on my own. And in the early days, I built an office in the basement, and my wife was babysitting for our kids and the neighbors' kids, and we started the business. She answered the telephone, and I was out doing service work, and then we started growing and adding more people, and so on and so forth, and so consequently then, I think we got up to maybe 4 people, and we still were in a rural area, but there was other homes around, and having all the trucks around and that was not the best thing in the world. So I did find a vacant building not too far from our house, and I went to the owner of it and found out that I could lease it, so I leased it, and from there we just kept growing and eventually hired office people and office staff and so on. And then my wife kept working as office manager for quite a few years until she retired full-time kind of maybe 25 years ago or so.
And I'm going to back up a little bit. Because I know you and I've worked with you now for about 8 years, I know some of the stories, and I wish that you could share that with our audience. How did you get your start? A lot of people don't know actually how you started even before that.
Oh, well, actually I grew up in the Madison area, Dane County. My folks were separated, and so my mother was a hairdresser, and in those days she was a single mom, and so consequently when she got started, she worked days as a hairdresser and worked nights out at Oscar Mayer's in the hand boning department, and then she was able to build up a large enough clientele, and then she started her own business in the hairdressing business. In that period, I lived a lot. I had an aunt and uncle that had a farm out in between Dane and Wanakee, and so I lived out there most of my childhood, and even during my school days years, on weekends and holidays and stuff like that, I would go up to the Greyhound bus station and hop a bus and take it out there for the weekend or for holiday seasons and so on and so forth. And then I was out there all summer long. And then I went to high school. I went to Monona Grove High School, which is a local high school in the area. And after high school, I graduated, and I guess I really didn't do much planning on what I wanted to do. And so believe it or not, seeing my mother by then had her own beauty salon, and that it was up in the Park Motor Inn at that time. And so I decided to go to beauty school. And so I went there and I started working as a hairdresser for a few years. And I kind of realized not too long after I started that that was probably not going to be my career. So I had a good friend that was working for an HVAC company, and so my day off was Tuesday, and so he would swing by on Tuesday and pick me up, and I would ride along with him, and I did that for about 8 months and never got paid, but I did learn a lot, and then it came time for that company to hire somebody, and to be honest about it, they were a little reluctant to hire a hairdresser, but they felt a little obligated to me, so they gave me a job, and from there I got into the career and that. And I worked for an HVAC company for about, I think, 8, almost 9 years before I decided to go into business for ourselves.
What impressed you about that type of work?
I was always mechanically inclined, and to be honest about it, to be a good hairdresser, you have to have some artistic ability, and I had none. And so I thought, thank God I seen the handwriting on the wall early and started changing career in that so that so we could move on. And by then, my wife and I had married, and so consequently, and I think we had at least one, maybe two. I think one child at that time when I decided maybe two children when I decided to switch careers. And that,
What were your fond memories of working at the farm with your aunt and uncle?
I think they're just a good livelihood. Everything you ate was pretty much raised on the farm. You butchered your own food, your chickens, your eggs, and what have you. And it was just a lot of work, but it was refreshing. You're outside in the summertime all the time. I would get as brown as this table if you can see it, but doing the chores and the responsibility and that. The farmer's life is a hard life, but it's a good life. You know what I mean? And I enjoyed it, and it gives you a good work ethic. And I think that's probably what I got out of that was the work ethic that you develop being on the farm.
So fast forward, you now have a company that has about 60 employees, which is you're in a different role. About 3 years ago, tell us about what happened 3 years ago.
Well, I'm getting older, quite a bit older. And through the years, particularly the last 10 years or 15 years, I probably got called 3 or 4 times a month where venture capitalists wanted to look at buying the business and that. And I kind of looked at that a little bit, but I wasn't really impressed. It really didn't have what I wanted with the business. I think that through the years, the 50 years that we were in business at that time, I think we built a pretty good reputation in town as with our integrity and honesty, and those are easy words to say, but I think we really did. And then plus the employees that helped build the business and that, and it became pretty evident to me that the venture capitalists were really not interested in the business, the people, the employees, and that they're looking to buy it, maybe keep it a few years, and then dump it, and make some money, and what have you. And I wanted the business to keep going, and I wanted to reward the employees that helped build it, and so consequently, I started looking into what's called an ESOP, and employee ownership and that. And I investigated that, and I realized that it probably wasn't as lucrative a deal that I could have got with a venture capitalist, and probably would have got all my money up front and so on and so forth. But so there was some risk involved with it, but I thought it was worth it, and so I decided to go that route, and so consequently we did that about 2.5 years ago or so. We started making the employees owners of the business.
And throughout your career, you've been involved in the trades, and you've served on various committees. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing with those committees.
Well, when I actually retired, I retired from most of those, but I was on Sheet Metal Apprentice, the Steamfitters Apprentice Committee. I was president of the Mechanical Sheet Metal Association here in town, and quite active in all those organizations that were associated with the industry. We're a union contractor, and so consequently we negotiate new contracts roughly about every 3 years, and that or did, and so on and so forth. And when we originally started, we started just as a service company, and then after a few years, we started doing some sheet metal work and that, and we grew that between the service and the sheet metal. And then down the road, we decided to go on the plumbing side, and so we went and started doing plumbing work. Primarily service and replacement now is what our business is. Years ago, we used to do larger construction and stuff, and we kind of scaled it back down to more light commercial and residential, and we really aren't the type of company that goes out and bids a $500,000 construction job or something like that. We, like I said, we'll do light commercial as far as more on the order of replacement, repair, and that, and also on the heating side, and also the plumbing. And later on, we did go on the electrical side of the business too, and we do a little bit more light construction on the electrical, and again, a lot of service work and repair and that type of stuff.
So this company is kind of unique in the Madison area, providing mostly residential service. What are some of the things that you've seen over the last 50 years in this industry, in the Madison space?
Well, the biggest thing happening is our industry has changed so much. I tell people that, the first 50 years of our business, it took them that many years to make a change from a stack switch on an oil furnace to a CAD cell type control on it. Now it's the controls and parts and stuff like that are almost changed on a whim, you know what I mean? And when we first started in business, we could stock a truck and probably fix about 95 plus of what we went on. Today, with the diverse parts and so on and so forth, we're probably down to 35-40% of what we can fix when we go out there without having to secure a part or something to get the furnace or air conditioner running.
And through these years, you've had so many different vendor relationships. What are some of the things that stand out with you with having these partnerships?
Well, our longest partner has been Lennox Industries. When we decided to open up our sheet metal shop and start doing replacements and that. Seeing that we were service oriented, we kind of knew the quality of equipment and that. And Lennox did and still does make a premier product. And I'm not just saying that because we sell it, because I did, before I decided which way I wanted to go with the equipment, I did look into, and really when I say I looked into it, we had a pretty good handle of it because we service all makes and models and what have you. And so I more or less selected Lennox versus Lennox selecting me, or us,
Mm-hmm.
and that. And we did for years to sell Armstrong equipment, which is a good piece of equipment. It's actually owned by Lennox, and it's kind of a sister company. And we did sell that for a little while too. And then the plumbing, we try to always sell which we feel is the best product on the market, if it's a water heater or softener or whatever. So.
And electrical, now we're a Generac dealer.
Yeah, right. And that's kind of a new twist a little bit, you know what I mean, in that. But yeah, our electric department is doing fairly well with that, and it gives the people a little security, you know what I mean. And particularly, you look at the future, it kind of looks like there is going to be shortages of electricity and energy, but primarily electricity, and also maybe we might start experiencing some of the brownouts and things like that they have in other parts of the country, you know what I mean? So
right, especially with data needed now,
yeah.
the cryptocurrency,
Yeah.
all these different data sources that need energy. So what advice would you give somebody who wants to start a business in general?
Well, what you think you know is probably about 1/10 of what you're going to have to learn. And I've always said is that, and I still believe this, is that, I think the statistic is like 1 in 10 or something like that, or companies that go into business make it 5 years. And I think the reason for that is that most of us go in and we're pretty good, particularly in going in the trades. We're pretty good in our field, probably, maybe real good. I'm not saying that about myself, but I mean generally speaking, and the person has enough confidence in himself that he can fix anything or whatever. But what we really don't know is the business side of it. And the ones that learn the business side fast enough before they have to close the doors are the ones that make it. And like I said, most of us don't make it. So, when you're kind of a survivor, you kind of hang your hat there a little bit. But yeah, it's a challenge, and you just don't know. I mean, expenses and stuff like that. I can remember when at the end of the year, and I'd have my accountant do the taxes, and he said we made some money, and we didn't have any money. But it was in tools, every time we had to do something, we had to buy a saw or a drill or something like that. Well, that's like dollars and cents sitting there, you know what I mean? But eventually you get caught up and what have you. But it's interesting. It's a good learning experience, but I'd say the biggest thing for a young person going into business, any business, is that probably you're really at the top of your game as far as what business you're going into, but concentrate on learning the business side, because that's, I think, what makes or breaks the success of the person going in.
Great, Larry. I appreciate the time you took today to be on the show. Thank you for coming out today.
Well, you're welcome. And so thank you, Theresa.